Hey, patrons, welcome to your Creep Cult bonus episode.
Donus app. Because it's the D episode.
Oh, you're right. So we are doing the alphabet roulette still. This week was D.
D's nuts.
Never gets old with that one, huh? We're talking about Dark City. Dark City. So, Dark City, huh?
Without further ado, yeah. So
Pretty good.
Yeah, I had seen this a couple weeks ago, and I'm very curious to hear what you guys thought about it, because this was a movie.
I got some thoughts.
You got some thoughts. That's good. That's what we're here for. I had seen this pop up on like every list of top sci-fi movies of all time, and
it was one of my shameful misses.
Yeah. And so for the longest time, I was just like, and one of my all-time favorite movies is The Crow by the same director, Alex Proyas. And
that's what I was going to look up. Yeah.
Yeah. And
this also collaborated with one of the writers of the Blade trilogy,
David S. Goyer.
Yeah. Who Guillermo del Toro said famously that he thought was an idiot, and then worked with him later in his career.
Yeah. He directed. I think he's only directed 2 movies. One was Blade Trinity, which is notoriously bad, and then also that movie The Invisible with Justin Chatwin, where he's like an invisible kid. He like dies and becomes invisible or some shit.
I don't know if I've seen that.
But apparently that was terrible too. Anywho,
that sounds terrible from that description.
Is that the one where he like fondles women and shit?
No, I don't think so. But I don't know. I haven't seen it.
That's your fantasy.
No.
Is that the one where I go around diddling?
No.
All right.
Okay, we are way off track here at this point. So yeah,
who's this movie star, guys? Rufus Sewell.
Rufus Sewell,
who they intentionally cast somebody that was pretty unknown.
Yeah, and I do know he's been in some other things that I would recognize, but I don't remember what they were.
We also got William Hurt, Kiefer Sutherland, and Jennifer Connelly. And I think
R.I.P. William Hurt.
Probably enough of those people.
Yeah. So basic premise for this movie is man ain't got no memories, got a born identity situation going on.
Yeah, the version I watched didn't have the Kiefer like voiceover.
So I was going to ask.
Yeah, I watched the director's cut.
Did you watch the director's cut or not? Yeah. So I also watched the director's cut, but I was like, that's pretty fucking must be pretty fucking annoying if you make this whole movie built around the mystery of what's going on in this place. And then for the theatrical cut, I guess there was that opening of him just explaining everything that was going on.
It was the same thing that with the studio interference that happened with Blade Runner.
So he's like, we're in a simulated city.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen this movie...
Oh, spoilers.
Spoilers. But yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, you've probably either seen Dark City or don't give a shit. But yeah, so this man with no memory, he comes to find out eventually that there is some... race of aliens who have put the strangers who have put all of these people in this kind of almost Matrix style simulation of this city, and they are able to use their power of tuning to kind of like psychically
tuning.
Yeah, I was like, what is it? Tuning? Is it cooning?
The tube.
Yeah, I was like,
tuning.
The internet is a series of tubes. And so, yeah, they're able to shift this city around and also erase and implant new memories in people, all part of this large experiment to find the human soul.
Because it sounded like they wanted to impersonate humans and I'm guessing eventually go to Earth. Like they just say like, we want to be able to blend in or something, right?
Yeah, so the idea, I guess, is that their race is a hive mind, so they don't have like a concept of individuality, and through some vague, apocalypse or something that happened on their planet, they are dying out, and so they are trying to find out what about humans and their individual souls and like the idea of them being individual people, like what makes them human and what makes them able to survive like through hardship. And they're basically trying to find some sort of esoteric solution to their survival. They're like, maybe the hive mind thing is our problem and we need to figure out like what makes humans tick. And their weird way of doing that is just switching people's memories around so that sometimes they're a detective, sometimes they're a murderer, sometimes they're something else, and seeing how they play out these scenarios. It's called Dark City because the whole time the city is always night and it's always in darkness, and nobody seems to like pick up or notice it outside of our like main character eventually. But yeah, and we find out that's
by design,
and also because they are a city on a big floating space platform
disc,
and they've been turned away from the sun so they don't get sunlight. But yeah, so our character goes on some madcap adventures through the dark city, and
he does.
The aliens do the time warp. The whole time I was watching it, I was like, I recognize that main fucking alien dude, Mr. Hand or whatever. And it's because it's Richard O'Brien who played Riff Raff in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
So, and apparently he was cast specifically because Riff Raff in Rocky Horror Picture Show is like a weird, creepy bald dude.
Yeah.
And Proyas was like, I want my aliens to be like a weird, creepy, bald dude. So he specifically like wrote the part and sought out Richard O'Brien for it.
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I think that if I would have watched it in '98 when it came out, I would have been like, oh, fuck, that was rad. But having seen a bunch of stuff that probably was influenced by this, which I didn't realize, and having watched a bunch of stuff that probably influenced this, I was like, okay, like, it's fine. I wasn't bored by it, but I wasn't blown away either. Some of the ones I wanted to bring up, I think obviously it had influence on The Matrix to some degree.
100%. It's all over the Wikipedia article for it.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I read on IMDb that they used parts of the set for The Matrix.
Yeah,
they sold them to the Matrix
They shot in
team.
the same Sydney, Australia, like studio. So and they still just had, and that's I'm curious. So how much of this would have been able to actually directly influence The Matrix if The Matrix came out the year after this? Like,
well, if they sold the sets after it to some degree, right? Like,
well, I mean, aesthetically, yeah, but it even down to like the concepts of the whole like simulation and changing reality and having these like
wardrobe.
Yeah, a lot of and just like the way that this whole thing operates, they feel, like it could be the craziest case of parallel thinking. And I guess this does happen all the time in Hollywood, where there's two movies that come out that couldn't conceivably have actually ripped each other off, but they just happen to come out at the same time with the same concept.
I think a studio gets wind of a studio doing something, and so they're like, okay, we need our version to compete with it.
Yeah, and maybe Matrix got a little bit of a boost into getting into production because they were like, shit, we got the sets from this very similar movie that just finished.
Yeah. I also think Batman Begins, not even just like with Goyer, but some of the way that Gotham looks similar to this city, especially in Begins. And with the miniatures used in this, very similar to how the miniatures looked in Batman Begins.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I almost forgot to bring that up. Is like, yeah, it definitely has a Gotham feel, and I think also part of that is that they go out of their way to make it very anachronistic. Like all of the buildings and designs of everything are all supposed to confuse you as to what time period this is supposed to take place in, and also confuse the characters.
Costume design too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I
I
just
think
the neo-noir sensibilities lend themselves well to kind of like if you close your eyes and you think of Gotham, like it lends itself well to
and
that.
I think it's really interesting because Proyas actually said in interviews that he really, really didn't want Dark City to look like Tim Burton's Gotham. He wanted to differentiate it and make it feel more like it took place in a real city, as opposed to, and I don't know how much of that actually translates because of the fact that this does take place completely on built sets that are like weird and anachronistic. But the both Burton's Batman Gotham and then I think more recognizably the animated series is very into the like, let's have old 1940s cars, but then have like crazy futuristic Zeppelins and stuff, and like the whole playing into that. And so I think it was just, if he really didn't want it to feel like Batman, maybe
he missed the mark.
Maybe missed the mark on that because it feels extremely Batman.
But I also think the show Fringe.
Yeah,
you guys ever see Fringe? They have like bald aliens that watch, and they're like strangers.
I never finished it, but
yeah.
I just watched like a full series recap of what happened.
So that, and then I don't know if you guys thought this, but Saw.
Really?
Yeah, all the spirals.
Lots of spirals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then kind of the look of it, where it kind of has this dirty, like Fincher-esque or Wan-esque. Like,
yeah,
look.
and
I thought it pulled a lot of influence from something like Seven.
It pulled influence?
Yes.
When did Seven come out?
Seven came out in 90.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why I missed that. I also think
like
that
a year or two before.
You see hints of Hellraiser, obviously, with the way that strangers look. They look like Cenobites in a lot of ways. There's an episode of The Twilight Zone from the 80s that I've seen, and I was like, oh, fuck, this is kind of like that, called A Matter of Minutes. And this couple somehow stumbles into a part of our world where people are building like our reality, and they have to rebuild every minute. So they're lost in time, and they're trying to figure out like, wait, what's going on? And they just see random people building like, okay, we're here for the next minute, and we have to keep the continuity the same per minute.
Yeah.
And I was like, this seems a lot like that. And then the last one that I wanted to mention was The Adjustment Team.
Adjustment Bureau.
Yeah, well, that's the...
Is that what the movie is based on, The Adjustment Team?
Right, yeah. So the movie...
The Dick Project.
But I don't...
Oh, yeah.
But I think that this probably was influenced by the book more so than the movie. But maybe the movie was influenced partly by... I don't know. Who knows at this point?
Well, and you said it reminded you of a Twilight Zone episode. Proyas in basically every interview about this movie said that the Twilight Zone was his biggest, like, just straightforward influence for this entire concept and this idea. But I think your whole Seven thing, you may be a little bit more onto that than I first realized, because when he originally wrote this script, before it was written by Goyer and a couple other people, it was radically different, and the idea was supposed to be about a detective kind of noir style, because this also has a lot of noir influence, just like Batman. It was a detective trying to solve a crime, but all of the clues he found made absolutely no logical sense together, and so he starts going insane and realizing what's going on in this like simulated world, because he just can't connect the dots on this mystery he's trying to solve.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and so
like the leftover components of that ended up being that character, the one who's like drawing shit all over the walls and stuff.
Well, so yeah, what he ended up doing was he was like, well, I think instead, to make it more interesting, I'll switch it to the perspective of the man who's being chased by the detective instead, and like give him, erase his memory, and that'll make it more interesting and like a way for the audience to learn about this world, with the character and all that stuff. But I would have definitely been interested in seeing that direction of like, because I really like that concept of somebody trying to solve a crime, and the shit just like makes no sense, and the audience, I think, especially if played the right way, where there isn't a stupid Kiefer Sutherland intro going, it's aliens, bro. If it had been like, you're trying to solve the crime, and at first you think that the movie is just poorly made because you're like, none of this shit fucking makes any sense together, and then you realize it's not supposed to, and that's the big surprise. How did you guys feel about the performances? Because Sutherland, he is always playing like radically different characters and stuff, and I think that this is definitely a idiosyncratic turn for him in this movie. And
I thought he was good.
Yeah, there were some moments where he kind of leans into the like deep breath, say one word. Deep breath, say one word.
He overdoes the like tick, the character tick. Yeah, to where like it borders on annoying at some parts. So yeah, but I guess when he got the script originally, the character was written much older, and he was like, oh, they meant to send this to my dad, and he was like, I'm whatever, and then even Proyas was like, yeah, I don't know why that got sent to you. You're way younger than the character. But then when they met each other, he was so impressed with Sutherland that he was like, you know what? No, actually, we're going to drop the character's age down and make him more of like the Jim, again, another Batman parallel, like the Jim, like somebody who has a future ahead of him, where he's like, maybe this place can be better or whatever. But how did you guys feel about the ending and the big reveal? Did you feel like it was, oh, that's pretty cool? Or did it feel kind of, I know you were saying, because so many things have done similar stuff since then, to me it felt like it lost a little bit of its impact, just because it's like, okay, at the time maybe not been there, done that, but now at this point, been there, done that.
Yeah, I like there are a ton of different parallels you can pull as far as like commentary that come off of the way that it ends and kind of like what the actual plot is about. One of the ones that I picked up really early on was like capitalism. Like they are like the face of like corporate greed, because they're all homogenized and they don't understand how to feel like human emotions or have individuality. And I mean, it's about this city.
It's like corporations trying to be people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like all these like huge buildings are being constructed overnight, and like it doesn't matter if it's like affecting people's lives and all of these things. It all kind of leads back to like corporations. I know that that's probably a very small on the list of things, but I definitely saw that parallel. I know that there are some like folklore type stories or like old history stories that are kind of tied into this too.
It's very much Plato's allegory of the cave.
Yeah,
it's these And then there's the question being asked at the end where it's like, now that these characters have finally revealed how the shadows on the cave wall are made and they've gotten to the outside of it, well, now is Sewell's character, what's his name? Is it
John?
Is it Murdoch?
Murdoch.
Yeah. Is Murdoch's new reality going to be better? Like, are they going to fall into the same traps? Like, now that you're outside of the cave and you're the one making the shadows, is that going to make anybody's lives any better on the inside? Like, that's cool. You got your beach and you get to like restart with Jennifer Connelly, which, I mean, good on you. That's dope. Proud of you,
I
buddy.
wouldn't be mad about it.
Yeah. If I could warp reality. No, I'm just kidding. So there's that ambiguity at the end of like, well, is it actually going to be any better? Also, they're just fucking floating out in the middle of space and we don't really know
if they're from Earth.
If they're supposed to have been going someplace. And I guess even Goyer and Proyas disagreed on it. Proyas was like, oh, in my head canon, they were people on a spaceship traveling to a distant planet, like to a new home world, and it got hijacked by these aliens and over time like transformed into this city. And then Goyer is like, no, they're all dead. This is like a limbo of like the ghosts of people from like different parts of history and stuff,
and this
like
is
having
their souls.
Yeah, and they're having to like live in a purgatory dark city, and like constantly having to have their memories erased and like try to find their way out. Also, Truman Show.
Totally.
They literally get to the part where there's like the wall and it's like a fake wall, and then it's like I can get through on the other side, and I've been in a fucking fake city. And
Is that what that movie's about?
spoilers for Truman Show.
What's the name of the woman from Triangle and like a whole bunch of other things?
Is that Eliza Dushku? Is that who's in that?
No.
From the Triangle, the one on the ship.
Yes.
Triangle Ship. I want to say real quick,
main
it's gotta fucking suck to write this movie and then be greenlit, and then you're gonna direct it, and then they're like, okay, you can still direct it, but we're gonna change basically everything about it. And like, how fucking much would that suck to have to do this project? And it's like, yeah, this was my baby, and now it's something completely different.
Yeah, Melissa George.
Melissa George is one of her first performances as well.
Was she in this?
Yeah, she's one of the. She's the woman of the night that saves him from the cops.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
before she was in like 30 Days a Night and things like that as well.
it definitely doesn't seem to me like Proyas has had very good experiences overall with studios and making projects. And after this, I mean, really the only big things he did were that movie Knowing with Nick Cage about like the end of the world or something.
Yeah, that also is like a twist.
It has like a weird alien twist. And then he did that movie Gods of Egypt,
Which that bomb
with like all the crazy CG white people playing Egyptian gods and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I could see he reminds me a little bit of somebody like I think it's Richard Kelly who did Donnie Darko, which we also could have potentially done for a D.
I think we've covered Donnie
I think
Darko.
that's why I
on the
didn't
show
bring it
before.
up. But yeah, Richard Kelly made like Donnie Darko
And then
the Southland
Button, I think.
Tales, and then
or The Box. I think did he make The Box? Yeah.
Yeah, and just like really has his career's just like kind of done nothing after that. And I'm like, this guy it seems like he had a lot of potential and probably just had a bad experience with Hollywood.
I think Price made a short recently.
Oh, really?
That's set in this same universe.
Oh
Shit, Darker City.
Oh damn. Oh dang.
Yeah, I think that it's the set design is really impressive. The idea is really cool conceptually. It feels like one of those things where maybe if it had come out a few years later, it may have been able to like push some stuff to be a little bit bigger and a little bit
Yeah.
I think
like with the advancement in technology. But I think for when this was made, it was using all of its resources to try to pull off this like pretty fucking crazy concept that he had.
I think its biggest problem, aside from the fact that it basically just flat made its shooting budget, not its advertisement budget or anything like that. It just made the flat shooting budget back in the box office, so it was a box office bomb. I think the fact that it came out so close to The Matrix is a problem. I mean,
shadowed by it for sure.
Exactly. And I think that the studio behind The Matrix got enough time to kind of see, well, they didn't do this in their advertising, they didn't do that in their advertising, and took advantage of the mistakes that they made and were able to push the Matrix to the right audience.
Also, the Matrix had a lot more fucking style.
Well, so Proya said in a lot of interviews that the test screenings for this were pretty uncomfortable because it was mostly just people really fucking confused about what was going on and just not really on board with the movie. And I think while the Matrix has a also like equally as esoteric, crazy concept going on, it also has a shit ton of amazing action and is way more stylistic and way more kind of, it's way better paced and like just basically
not super drab either.
Well, yeah, and so it's like it's able to deliver that crazy idea in a way that even if somebody doesn't pick up on all of that, the craziness, and they're still going to walk out of the movie going, well, that was fucking dope.
Big name stars too.
Like I would have not vibed with Dark City as a kid, but I fucking loved The Matrix when I was young because I was just, and I didn't understand all of the like crazy simulation stuff and all that. I just went, it's cool when he dodges those bullets and the karate's neat, So I think it's just the Matrix was able to do both. It was able to be like a really crazy sci-fi concept and also be a really fun popcorn movie. Mm-hmm. So,
and maybe one of the greatest action movies ever.
Yeah, I think there's a there's a territory where maybe if they had chosen a different way for like the tuning to function, that maybe this could have been a little cooler. I think the end battle, quote unquote, of just being two guys shooting drawn on circles at each other, not as climactic as the crazy fights and stuff that you get in the Matrix. I think if there was a better way to do it, they could have potentially like capitalized on the concept at the heart of this. It's really good.
It's like what you were talking about when we covered the Umbrella Academy, and we were talking about how Elliot Page is probably just like just standing there.
Yeah, just people sitting there groaning.
Like because all of that was CGI, or a lot of it. You know what I mean? So it's
or
just them, like,
art,
there.
and you're just like. Art panels done after the
once
fact.
Again, Alex Proyas is way ahead of you because he said in interviews that the CG was his least favorite part of the movie because it didn't represent the tuning in a way that he felt was anything but hokey, pretty much. And so he would agree with you that was one of the weaker points of the movie. But that whole ending, very heavily inspired by a certain anime film called Akira. But yeah, I just think that this was, maybe in a different time, this would have worked better and not, having been followed up directly by The Matrix. But
also, Brandon Lee was supposed to be in this. He was supposed to be the main
I guess they had
character.
been talking about this project when they were working on The Crow. So, I mean, I definitely obviously wish that we could have seen that version.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there probably would have been a little bit more action stuff infused into it just because Brandon Lee was such a great action performer as well as just a great performer. But I would recommend still checking this movie out if you are a high concept. If you like crazy sci-fi ideas and you want to see one that has that kind of like Gotham dark
City
drab vibe. Yeah, I mean the title pretty much says it all.
Yeah, but City is dark.
Yeah, if you see the poster for this and you're like, that looks dope, you're probably going to enjoy it. But I would recommend checking out The Crow also if you haven't seen it because it's definitely a better movie. But
I thought it was okay. I get why it's kind of a sci-fi classic into some regard because
At least cult classic.
Right, yeah. I think that it definitely, you can see its influences and you can see what it has influenced. And up until this point, I didn't realize that this movie had influenced other things. But you can see it in its bones. So yeah, I would recommend it. It's not too bad. I don't know what the theatrical cut's like, but the director's cut was fine.
They said that the director's cut is a little slower paced, but obviously the mystery hangs around for a lot longer because it isn't spoiled in the first few moments by a stupid shitty voiceover. Which there's only one franchise I can think of that pulls off having an opening voiceover well, and that's the one that we're going to be talking about in today's main episode.
Ooh, look at that segue.
Remind him, dude.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Mad Max Fury Road to wrap up March Madness.
Witness me. Yeah, but first, we
Hey.
got to see what the
Yeah.
E is going to bring.
Yeah, so John wants us to watch. What is that?
Give me a second.
Oh, give me a second. We're going to bring up the Wheel of Destiny.
The Wheel of Endless Possibilities.
All right, so Evil Dead remake. We've talked about Evil Dead. We've talked about Army of Darkness to some degree. I want to talk about the remake.
Right on. I am shocked that we haven't talked about it already. I'm going with Exam from 2010. And
if you've never heard of that movie, neither have we.
yeah.
And that's kind of exciting to me. And I'm going with David Lynch's Eraserhead.
All right. Do we got Spinnigans?
We got Finnegan, Michael Finnegan.
Come on,
Spin
baby.
that wheel.
I really just want you guys to watch Exam to see if it's worth watching. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Oh, I didn't get it. What is it?
It's gonna be Eraserhead.
Oh!
Yes. Finally, I sneak some David Lynch into this motherfucking podcast.
Weather in LA.
Yeah, so
It's weird.
I'm
Eraserhead's
stuck in this David Lynch bullshit.
red curtains, zigzag floors. Little guy talks backwards. So yeah, we're gonna be watching Eraserhead. I'm really curious about this one because I know that David Lynch stuff is not for everybody, and I especially know that Eraserhead is not for everybody. So I'm curious to see whether you guys like this or
I like Lynch.
Yeah,
So, the little I've seen. I'm excited. Isn't who plays the main guy? Fink. Isn't it Fink? Or no? What's
no,
his name?
it's
But is it John?
I think it's Jack Palance.
Oh,
You're thinking of Barton Fink.
and that's John
Turturro,
Turturro.
yeah.
Jack Palance
okay.
is from Batman.
So the covers look similar.
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, but you were thinking Barton Fink.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big poofy hair men.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally different movie. But
I'm gonna watch both.
well, I'm excited that we finally broke the streak of watching Tones movies. But I mean, honestly, I gave you a lot of shit, but I overall enjoyed your picks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Except for Battlefield Earth.
Yeah.
besides Battlefield Earth.
Other than that, it's been fun.
Chuck asked me, he was like, yeah, I've never seen it. Should I check it out? And I was like, it's so incompetent that it'll make you angry. So just don't even waste your time on it.
If you guys are feeling squirrely, check out Exam. I think it's only like 90 minutes. So.
Well, like what I've been doing recently is just going and watching the other movies that we nominated on here. So I'll probably just go watch Exam either way.
Yeah, let me know
and
what you
Evil
think.
Dead.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for your Creep Cult bonus episode. We'll see you next time with Eraserhead. Thanks for checking us out.
Keep it creepy.